Hello and welcome to my Thursday night live show. I'm Stephen Englander, and on tonight's show we've got some interesting topics. We're going to look at Octopus Energy and its attitude of disrupting markets. We're going to comment on minimum wage, whether that's good or bad, and as usual we'll answer a few business questions. Before I start, though, I just wanted to mention that we've got a new team. I'd like to introduce my team. I'm not going to show you pictures of them because it might scare you. So we've got Hayden Hewitt, as usual, our guru and mastermind behind all things media. We've got Ed, as everybody knows, especially if you've come on one of our shows. And if you do want to come on one of our shows, do contact us and Ed will take you through the process. We've got Graham Booth, who's now joined us. Graham's going to be doing all our research and organising our team of freelance journalists. And of course, we've got Roland Gent. Roland's coming along to do a lot more of our social media, make sure we're doing things properly. And Roland in himself is both a journalist and a stand-up comedian. So do look him up by all means and watch his show. So anyway, let's get on with things. But before I do, before the show, as you can imagine, with people like Hayden and Graham and Roland, we've got lots of conspiracy theories rolling around. Not Roland. And they hate Facebook. I mean, they've been trying to hook up our cameras so it broadcasts through Facebook and the language about Facebook. So I asked them, why don't they like Facebook? What is it? And basically they think it's a massively predatory company that just collects data regardless of what you want them to do, and they're big sellouts, and they're quite dangerous and subversive. I don't know. I mean, tell me about your experience with Facebook, and let's see if it's worth looking into, or should we just leave it to the big firms, the big media channels to keep challenging them? I don't know, but do be careful with data. But you know, if you find Facebook useful and all the social media groups useful, then obviously continue using them. Looking at some things that I think you should know about that are also in the news. Just be aware that making tax digital for self-assessment is on its way. It's not going to be here for a little while yet, but things are changing. Now what is making tax digital self-assessment? You know what it's been for the VAT, and now it's moving to self-assessment. The basic thing is everything's going to be digitized. So if you're not, basically the worst thing that's going to happen is that if you don't have an invoice, you cannot reclaim the VAT, and HMRC will basically say the same thing, that if you don't have an invoice, you can't claim a deduction against profits, and therefore you're going to end up paying a lot more tax and VAT if you don't get this right. The other problem that we're going to have is that, like VAT, we're going to have to be filing accounts quarterly, not annually. So, you know, it's all about paperwork now, and my team, we've all been preparing this for a while because we've seen it coming. But the worst thing you can do now in business is not having your paperwork right. So for your existing accountants or for us, make sure the paperwork's there. We will scan it for you, but make sure that we've got it. So anyway, that's making tax digital. If you are worried, then do let me know, and we'll start setting the system up for you right away. Another little issue that could be a potential problem is that you've got to there's only certain softwares that you can use to file your tax returns, because it's got to go through the HMRC process of converting things and giving it to them in the format that they want. So it does make everyone's job a little bit harder, a little bit more repercussions if you don't get it right, and that's what we don't want, because what is also coming are they're trying now to make company directors more responsible for debt in the event of a company failing. So it's more important than ever to prove transactions and prove you're running the companies properly. So it's not just good enough to run the company properly, we've got to prove that you are doing, and that's all in the paperwork. So that's my little lecture over with that. We've got the last chance coming up soon to claim the self-employment grant. I think it's about £7,500. So do go ahead and make sure that you're claiming that. This is only for self-employed people. And There are a couple of other grants I've mentioned. One of them is to help you sort out any Brexit caused problems. So if you're doing some income, some imports or exports, and you're affected by Brexit, then because of the paperwork, then there are grants to help you get through this. They're not a lot, but it's worth going for it. Now, next week we've got the budget coming up, and there are a few things that I'm sort of pretty certain are going to happen. I don't think it's going to be a terrible budget. I think there's going to be some mutterings, but I think what they're going to do is set the sort of agenda and set the process going for next year and the year after. And I think, like with getting ready for MTD now, I think we should start listening to what's really behind the budget. So next week we'll do a special programme on the budget, and I'll explain all about how it's going to affect you. But other than that, I don't think there's any real point in going through it, because it's not been confirmed yet, and the bulk of what I've been reading is probably going to happen. But there's no point going into it, because there'll be subtleties that will change. So again, if you've got any queries, just let me know. But leave it till after the budget, and then I'll send out a bulletin to everybody. That's any clients anyway, that so that they know what it's about, and obviously and any changes in the way we have to report things will already be on top of. So don't worry about that. Let's just go back to Octopus and Greg Jackson, an interesting company. They've just now been valued at 1.4 billion, and that's a company that's just over 4 years old. I'm not saying that it should be of interest to you in any way at all. The only reason that it's become of interest to me and my research team, because they tell me I've got to talk about certain things, is because they've made a couple of comments. First of all, they're taking on the big six what they call it, energy firms, and they're disrupting the market, and they're offering a non-traditional business structure. In their words, it's part of no HR or IT department and other things as well. And that brings me on to talking about, well, what does that mean? Well, why am I interested? It's because what is disrupting the market, and what is a traditional business structure? And I keep hearing these terms. Let's disrupt the market, and I think I don't know, I find it nonsense. But you don't disrupt markets. Why would you want to disrupt anything? I feel that might be code for a new way of doing things. And we only get a new way of doing things because the old way of doing things isn't working as well as it used to do. So, a traditional business structure has worked for a very long time. So I think little tweaks to keep up with the modern world, to keep up with technology, and to keep up with trends, and to just generally keep up with what people want, isn't disruptive. It's just common sense, and a new way of doing things can change the industry, but it's not disruptive in look at me, I'm doing something really clever. Usually it's about being very attuned to what the marketplace is, and then naturally moving into that. I mean, we can all see that now that Tesla have proven, I mean, it's proven well before that, the existence of electric cars and the viability of them, that all the other firms will start moving towards them. But, it's quite often not the first person in the market to utilise new technology and new ways of doing things that are the successful ones. In fact, most of them fail. They've got to either be very brave with their own money or very careless with other people's monies. Usually a little bit of both. I'd veer more towards the side that they're gambling with other people's monies. But, at the end of the day, when it comes to these electric cars, do you think that BMW and Ford and Fiat and all the big boys won't blow Tesla out of the water? Of course they will, but then again, Tesla might have a long-term strategy in bringing their batteries, and they'll become suppliers of batteries. But whatever it goes, it's not always the first person that does it. They're usually the ones that don't succeed. It's the people that jump in on the bandwagon. And sometimes someone like Ford are far more cautious about measuring the market, but when they do it, they do it they do it as an ongoing, steady, no chances, and that's the same with the public. And I mean, I've looked at certain software that can help me run my business a bit better, but I've stuck with the tried and tested until the new people with their new ways, new technology have proven to be better. And then we can look at that. I mean, I can't argue against that because I've built this business on being one step ahead of most accountants when it comes to understanding the market and making sure that we've got state-of-the-art technology. But so I think I just want to get across that people take a lot of credit for doing a lot of just following what the trend is. So I'll say to you, keep an eye on your own markets, look at the trends, and go in the direction that the wind is blowing. I think Stephen Covey said, "Go in the direction the horse is running," but do that. You don't have to jump in to new technology or disruptive management techniques or anything else. I mean, when they turn around and say they don't have an HR department or an IT department or an account department or whatever, I don't believe they don't have one. I think they're probably outsourcing it to somebody else. So there you go. They're keeping things to a minimum. So I thought that might be an interesting take, and I've not really got a lot more to say on that without this going into a 2-hour discussion. Minimum wages. Okay, let's go to minimum wages. What is it that about minimum wage that attracts such ongoing publicity? I mean, I know at the moment there's been a lot of problems, a lot of outcry in New York about the $15 an hour minimum wage, and that's a big jump. And I don't think it's the minimum wage itself, the principle of it. I think it's the amount that it's jumped to. You see, looking at minimum wage, I'd always, I don't really care whether people are on minimum wage. I don't think people should earn less or more. I don't have a problem with people earning less or more. There's something about minimum wage that is a bit unwholesome. And it almost feels like there's more going on in the background, and it's like, I mean, this is coming from me, who's a believer in UBI, which is Universal Basic Income. So I think that everybody should have a wage, whether they're working or not. But looking at a minimum wage, what the biggest problem for me is that it's like you're paying more money out, but not getting any more value. And I think that is a problem for businesses because they do have expenses to cover. They do have to make a living. They do have to survive. They do have to have cash flow. And are a lot of small businesses, and as harsh as it sounds, but are they there to support local members of staff? Are they there to make sure that everybody gets a living? I mean, it's a nice feeling when you've got a team of people and because of what you're doing, they've got a nice standard of living. And people should have a nice standard of living. There's no doubt about that. But is it sustainable by having a minimum wage rate? See, let's look at that. You've got the move to inflation. So obviously, if wage rates go up, then you've either got to grow the business. I mean, I've not put prices up, my fees up, for something like 15 years, but our staffing costs have risen enormously. So we're doing okay because we have a large volume of clients, and we offer other services as add-on products. But our core fees haven't really changed much. I'm not really looking to change them either. But a lot of people don't grow the business, so they're stuck with higher costs, but they're not getting more business in. So they've got to start raising their prices. And what happens when you start raising prices is you've got inflation. So you've got to keep raising people's wages on a minimum wage rate to keep that going. And it's employers will often look at alternatives. So they'll look at maybe using people from lower wage countries, or looking at software or robots, or just really getting mingier with what people do, less sitting around time, less, instead of having a half an hour chit chat, coffee, stops, and all the other little perks that people get, maybe they're cut down. I mean, there's an argument that the more you look after your staff and the more you pay people, the happier they are coming to work. But we all want more money. It's just that, do we get more value for that money and more loyalty and more people wanting to do the job better? And, we don't know. You get good people that are good people. And I've always found that people are good people regardless of what you pay them. So you should look after them. And then the market, in any other area, you go by what the market can bear. So if a job pays X, then that's the wage. If people don't do a good job, then don't keep them around. And if they do a good job, then maybe you want to pay them a bit more because as an individual they do a good job. So I'm not in favour of a minimum wage rate, not because I don't want to pay people, but because I think you should get some value about what you're paying. I've got some great people in here, and I pay them more than that because they're worth more than that. But you can get two people doing the same job. One does it better. One's more reliable. So it should be a choice, and there is no real evidence. I mean, economists have been arguing this subject for years. There's no real evidence that it actually reduces poverty or it actually does any good. In fact, at best, what the economists tend to say is that introducing a minimum wage rate does nothing because, like I say, you've got to keep that up. So what's the alternative? Well, I don't think anyone in the government's going to listen to me, but you do have alternatives, because if you want to pay people more money, I just don't believe it should be an onus of the business. So maybe an increase, a substantial increase in the personal allowances, maybe other types of benefits that you can give to people. Maybe even, and this is a hard one, maybe you've got to look at what a business is, and a business is by its own nature an opportunity. It's a centre of opportunities. So if you're working for a business, then why can't those opportunities fall on you as well? I mean, people watching this are not people that are business owners, so it doesn't apply. But looking at your staff rate, the people that work for you, would you not be happy if people took initiative and became of value? If you had somebody that came to you and say, "Hey, I need more money. What can I do to earn that money?" Rather than I need more money because my rent's gone up. What's in it for me? And you could say to them, well, maybe bring in a few more clients, maybe up that, maybe get everybody into there, and they can then say, well, I don't really know how to do that, and you can, oh, pleasure, I'll put you in a training plan, and I just know that I know that if I, for instance, started off in a company, even if I was cleaning the toilets, I know that very quickly I would make myself far more useful than cleaning the toilets. And people, I have cleaned the toilets in here, and they're not good. But I know that people have opportunity, and if they want to take it, maybe we should encourage. We should encourage that, but I just don't believe that our business is there yet, especially small businesses, as a social endeavour. I think we're there to make a few quid and to perpetuate our products and. So if I was going to a company as a consultant working at staff, I would be looking at those and saying, come on guys, how can you make this business better? And therefore some of the profits will land on you. I think giving everybody a raise just because they sat there doing the same job they always do in the same way is giving more money away without getting any better value. And there'll be people that will be much happier than that, because then they're truly valued. You don't need government legislation to say pay me more money. I hope that sort of idea works for you, because if I was ever to go into politics, that's what I'd be going at. Come on, guys, look after the companies you work for. You don't need to wait for them to look after you. And then, like I say, no government interference. So I hope that brings that point to bed. Right, I've been asked a few questions. I mean, these came in online, and I've already had a chance to look at them, and I'm not quite sure why I've been asked them. But the first one is Peter Mills from Birkenhead, and he's asking me, what do you think about COVID passports? And my answer to all of these types of things is that you do whatever is commercially viable. So if you're running a business that feels more comfortable or makes other patrons more comfortable, knowing that people have proven to some degree that they've got immunity or vaccination against this horrible illness, and maybe lots of other illnesses as well, then okay, take it. I mean, I personally think you should all be chipped. I mean, that would solve the COVID problem, because you just walk in and it buzzes if you've not been chipped. And then they can, you can also do that as a payment plan as well. So, chipped, maybe have a chip on your thumb, pay, or maybe your retina says, go shopping around Tesco's and put everything in a trolley, walk out, and you've already paid for everything because it's scanned your eyeballs on the way out. So but just do, just do what works. It's a commercial decision as far as I'm concerned. If you get more people coming into your business or want to deal with you because they feel comfortable that you put this policy in place, you don't need the government to legislate that. You can offer that anyway. You can turn around and say, show me proof of immunity before you come into my business. And it's a shame you can't get one for stupidity, can you? That you can sort of say, I am a stupid person, and you don't need to let them in. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry about that. Akim from Manchester. What's going on with Uber? Will the ruling affect drivers? Well, of course it will. This is going back to a little bit about what I was saying before, that if minimum wages are pretty high, and other legislation like holiday pay and pensions and general red tape, people will look to find alternative ways of your services. And I think this thing with Uber is one of them. Now, I know a lot of taxi drivers are self-employed, because we act for some taxi drivers who are self-employed. But I also know that there's something about the way Uber was working that didn't pass the test of government of whether you're an employed person or a self-employed person. I remember, where is there a master-servant relationship there? Are they using their own equipment? Are they dictated to what they can and can't do? Can they assign the job to someone else? And and it basically looks like it's with Uber especially, it's a big ploy to pay people a lot less than minimum wage and get out of paying all their other obligations to an employee. How that will pan out, I don't know, but I suspect that it opens the door to not only the rest of Uber's taxi drivers, but to what they call the gig economy as well. So that means that anybody that is working as a contractor needs to sort of start being aware of this now. And what the government seem to be doing, they're doing it for years now. Hairdressers, they had the rent-a-chair schemes, which as long as you can prove it and it's right, and then you've got a lot of like web designers that are working for one person, or a builder, or all people that they're not really in business, they're just working for that one guy or that one company. And I think that's what the government's looking at. They're looking to find who the client is, who's the end service provider. So you can go into IR35 rules, which is all about the same sort of thing, where people are they a worker, or are they are they subcontracting as a self-employed person, or are they in fact PAYE? Now, there's advantages and disadvantages to be PAYE, and there's advantages and disadvantages to be self-employed. It all depends what your salary is. So if you're, as a self-employed gig person, you're earning very good money, then maybe you want to be self-employed, because there are some tax advantages. On the other hand, if you're an employee barely obtaining minimum wage, then you want the employment status and security and benefits that go with it. But at the end of the day, it's not our choice. It's HMRC, and they will test whether this is. And this is an interesting case, because it's proven what the government knew all along, that Uber should be employing these guys. Whether Uber can survive, whether they can offer the service that people will pay more, it's something they've got to deal with. There are some sort of like more action coming from HMRC in this, and I know because I had some bulletins through the other day, and the sort of what we've got as accountants, I'm sure every accountant watching this will agree with me, the amount of legislation coming through on this area means that do we really want to be even acting for people that are falling under the IR35 rules? It is going to be complicated, and I think if you are self-employed, then great. If you're not self-employed, then let's not pretend either way. It's not great companies that employ people like this and set up umbrella schemes and umbrella companies, and people get ripped off with that. I know I'm on the side of the employer, not the employee, but at the same time, it seems to be the big companies doing it again, and people have to go and work for umbrella companies, and they end up having their holiday pay and their what do you call it, national insurance contributions and everything else rolled back into their average wages, so it's reduced there, and then so they end up paying more tax, and then they've got the indignity of paying national insurance contributions, employers' national insurance contributions, and then they've got to pay a fee to the management company for the benefit of all this, when really they should be self-employed in the first place, or even running their own company if that's permissible. So sorry I babbled on a bit, but it is the truth of things. Joe Frost from Birmingham. Hi Joe, I hope you're well. Do you think business owners start preparing for tax hikes in the coming year? So do you think business owners should start preparing for tax hikes in the year? Well, I know that they're looking in the budget of increasing corporation tax to 25%, so that's quite a big lump. But if the business is making money, then I think we should all do our little bit, because of the way the government supported us in the last year. And not everybody has been as well as others, but we're all mostly still here, and there's a great business infrastructure. I think that there's still a lot more grants and still a lot of more help that the government's going to give, and I think this is going to be another year of people not paying as much tax and having deferments and having a lot of understanding. And I think next year will be the year that the government have got to start looking at recouping some of the monies they've laid out, which means that we could be ready for some tax hikes. But personally, I don't think they're going to be massive. I know a 5% increase in corporation tax seems a lot, but it's not going to make any huge differences to anybody. And I think there'll still be, on the one hand, there'll be increases, but on the other hand, there'll be more allowances, more grants, more of everything. So I think sit tight. Let's all concentrate not so much on tax that we're going to pay, but let's concentrate on getting our businesses back up and running and stronger than they ever before. And if you want to talk about the tax and how it can affect you, I'm quite happy to take calls or emails, but leave it till after the budget, so I've got some better figures. But I think the real issues are going to start coming in 2023. I don't think this year or next year. I think they're just paving the way. I think the biggest problems people are going to have is within the infrastructure of making tax digital and getting the bookkeeping right. I don't think you're going to be paying any more tax than you probably have in the last few years, even before COVID. So now we're coming to our final question, which is Darren G from Manchester. Should I hire family members to work for me, and what are the pros and cons? I think I've answered this before, but I don't know whether you're asking me this because there's a problem there. But one of the things I found is that family, friends, anything that comes from nepotism isn't necessarily a bad thing. People are people. Doesn't really matter whether they come as part of your family or whether they become from the job centre or just total strangers. The one problem that I've had, and it's enough for me to say that I'm not overly keen on working with friends or family, and I think the problem is that when things don't work, whether it's because of you, me, or the member of staff, and you're employing somebody that you don't really know, then you tend to walk away. I mean, there's some grievance sometimes, but mostly you just walk away. You don't see that person again. But when you're dealing with family and friends, well, it follows you into your home life and stays with you forever, and whole chunks of family start falling out, and that's the problem. sometimes I hear a lot of horrible stories from families that have fallen out. But you know what? In the main, when family businesses work, there's nothing better. When you're working with your pals and you're working with your wife, your husband, your kids, your uncle, your auntie, it brings families closer. It's just when it doesn't work, the repercussions are just So anyway, that's we're coming to the end of the show quite nicely. I hope I've said some things that are interest to you, and that you'll come back next week and maybe even like me and ring my bell on YouTube, and then you get alerts to every week's. But we do the Between the Spreadsheets shows during the week, and we've had some really interesting people on, and it'd be lovely to hear from people. If you do want to come on the show, or you do have anything you'd like me to discuss, or you want to say, you know where to reach me. But thank you very much, and I'll see you all next week. Good night.